Welcome to the Unbearables podcast. I'm Brandon Ruiz, and I'm here with
Jack Cowart.
And I know I said last week that we're going to talk about Dirk and Marcus Smart, but we're actually going to do that some other time. Today, we're actually going to get to the Rockets extending Clint Capela to a 5-year, $90 million deal. And I think that was really good for the Rockets. I think that he was looking for 4 years, $100 million. I think that was reported. And I do not think he was worth that money. And I'm glad the Rockets, they stuck to their guns. And they said, hey, no, we can't do that. But we can do this. They still give him a good deal. And I think they brought him down to earth a little bit. Because he is important to their team, but he's not worth that money. And so I'm glad that the Rockets did this. Kudos to them. But what do you think Clint Capela brings to this team?
I think that if they hadn't signed Clint Capela, they'd be in such a bad position. Because I remember I was doing some rankings of Western teams, and I couldn't rank the Rockets as high as I wanted to because they hadn't signed Clint Capela yet. But knowing that they have him now, I think the Rockets are probably still the second or third best team in the West, despite losing Ariza and Mbamute.
Yeah, I think he definitely helps them a lot. I think that when you look at Clint Capela, his rebounds, they're super crucial for this Rockets team. And I just feel like if they don't have them, they don't stand a chance against the Warriors. At least now, they do somewhat stand a chance. I don't know exactly because of the whole DeMarcus Cousins thing now. But, I mean, I know Carmelo Anthony likes to put up a ton of shots, and so do a lot of people on that Rockets team. I mean, you kind of have to if you need to score at the capacity that the Warriors score at. You need to just get up a lot of shots. And I think that's why Clint Capela is so useful and he's so good for this team, because he will get you rebounds and he'll also score for you sometimes too.
Yeah, so I feel like it was sort of inevitable that they would get him back because he just waited too long to sign a contract. He was the last big name free agent left, and he was asking for, like you said, 4 years, $100 million. And with the Rockets managing to talk him down to it's $18 million a year, 90 over 5. He wasn't going to get that kind of money anywhere else. The only other team that actually had cap space was the Kings, and they definitely weren't going to sign him.
Yeah, so and also, why would you want to go to the Kings if you're Clint Capela?
Right. So he took this contract, which was way cheaper than he wanted, because he had to. He just couldn't go anywhere else. Yeah,
it's good for them that it worked out that way. Maybe not for Clint Capela, but honestly, I don't think Clint Capela would deserve $25 million a year. I really don't think he does. Maybe on a team that's bad, but on a team that has championship aspirations, I don't think Clint Capela deserves that type of that chunk of their salary. You know what I mean? Of their total cap space.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel about that. I feel like this is probably the most money Clint Capela should make over his career. He might make more later on. I know he's really young. He's only 23 or 24 years old. But if you have Clint Capela getting paid more than this, that means you don't have good enough players on your team to win a championship.
Yeah, especially because they're in my opinion, overpaying Chris Paul, and they have to deal with Harden's contract, and they still have some other bad contracts on their team as well. So, they literally just don't have the money for him.
Oh, yeah, they are for sure overpaying Chris Paul. There's no doubt that they're overpaying Chris Paul, because he's definitely not going to give you what you want him to give you his last 2 years of his contract. And also, when anyone in the league is getting, well, not anyone, there's some exceptions, but when anyone in the league is getting paid more than LeBron James, you have to think about, okay, but why is this person getting paid more than LeBron James? It doesn't make any sense, because he's clearly still the best player on the planet, and he probably will be for the next 3 years, maybe next 2 years for sure. He doesn't look like he's slowing down any time, and I think when you look at Chris Paul and how injury prone he has been, you can say you can say he's not worth the $160 million that he's getting paid. So that is what it is. But this gives the Rockets, I think, a legitimate chance at contending next season, and that's the most important part of all of this that happened.
Right. I feel like they still have a bit of a depth issue, but their starting lineup is going to be Chris Paul, James Harden, P.J. Tucker probably at small forward, and then Carmelo and Clint Capela. That's that's definitely a competitive lineup.
I think it is a competitive lineup. And I do see what you're saying, though, about the Rockets having a depth issue. But at the same time, it's like they almost beat the Warriors last season with the 7-man rotation. At least now I think they'll probably have like an 8-man rotation, if that helps.
To be fair, the Warriors actually aren't that deep either, and they're doing just fine.
See, the Warriors aren't that deep, but they can play like Steph and KD at the same time, and then they could have Clay and Draymond and AD and all these other guys sit, like, rest, and then when they come on, it's like the Warriors are just, they don't have as much depth, but they do at the same time because their players are so good individually and they're so good within their system that you don't need all of them on the court all of the time just because of how good they are and how smart they are. It's like that's the difference between a lot of teams is that you don't have those players that are that good and that smart. Like, and the Warriors are that. And they're not selfish either. But that's something we're going to need to see from the Rockets a little bit more, I feel like, too, is to be a little bit less selfish. I know a lot of their basketball is surrounded by iso ball, but you're going to need them to pass a little bit more and maybe not always go for the 3 balls as much as they did last season. I know it helped them a lot, but you definitely need the mid-range game, and I think that Melo helps them with that. But I also think that even if they miss now, like before it was a really big issue because without having Clint Capela, like who's getting your rebounds on that team? But now, I mean, you can shoot a little bit more, but hopefully you try to get a little bit more like high percentage shots. But even if that doesn't happen, now that you have Clint Capela back, he could definitely kind of like make some of those blemishes go away. So he's very important to this team. If they didn't have him, they would not be contending. And that just is what it is. Especially because, I mean, we say this all the time, but the Warriors have DeMarcus Cousins now. So you need a good center to go up against him, and at least a good one. And I know DeMarcus Cousins and like in his best form is going to just like destroy Clint Capela every day of the week, but he's probably not going to be in his best form. He's probably going to still be a very good DeMarcus Cousins, but it's something that Clint Capela can deal with, and if you don't have him, you can't deal with DeMarcus Cousins at all.
Yeah, if they didn't have Clint Capela, their big man lineup would be Ryan Anderson, Nene.
Yeah, Nene.
And Zhu Chi, I think his name is.
See, Nene's not that bad. He's just not the same player he was before.
Like the most you can give him is like rotational minutes.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing, because that's the big problem is like he can be good just coming off the bench.
Right.
But Ryan Anderson, man, he's getting paid like $20 million a season.
Yep.
I'm losing my words because I don't know how I feel about it. Like, how could you say, I think Ryan Anderson's going to pan out over this contract. I think it's going to be worth the money. Like, what in your right mind told you to give him the money? But that's another thing.
Yeah, like, it was when he signed that contract, it was during that offseason with the cap jump. So everybody was just signing bad contracts all over the place, and that was one of them. But they're still on the books for Ryan Anderson for the next 2 seasons. That's $20 million that they could be giving to players that could actually help them. And I don't think Ryan Anderson can really help them.
If they did that, you think about it this way too. If they didn't sign Ryan Anderson, they could have had a way better chance of signing LeBron this offseason.
Ooh.
Like a way better chance, and they probably wouldn't have had as much trouble signing Clint Capela because because you would have had a better chance of signing, especially even next season, signing even more big name free agents, like you just said. So there are a lot of like things that obviously no organization is perfect. There are a lot of problems. There are a lot of things that they can fix, but one thing that they did do right is to re-sign Clint Capela. And as long as he stays healthy, which I don't see that being a problem, he is definitely going to help this team contend for at least the next 2 seasons. Like, at least. So, I don't know. I'm happy about the extension. I'm happy they stuck to their guns. And I know Clint Capela, I guess you can tell, like, it's not all about the money for Clint Capela because he did sign for less. But there was one player about 2 years ago where he said he deserved a max contract. He played for the Boston Celtics at the time. He's Isaiah Thomas, who now signed for the veteran minimum. And now he was saying all like last season even, and in the season before that he thinks that he deserves a max contract. And now here he is this year, this offseason, signing the veteran minimum at $2.1 million with the Denver Nuggets. And I think that's really interesting. And I would just like to say, I knew he was never worth that money. Ever. He's a defensive liability. I would always say that to everyone all the time. I was like, I do like his scoring. I like what he brings to the team. Sometimes like his offensive tools, but at the end of the day, he has to be a sixth man on a good team.
Right.
He has to. If he's your starting point guard, I'm sorry, they are going to abuse you.
And especially with Jokic on that team, I don't think Isaiah can be playing significant minutes with Jokic because the Denver defense is going to be so bad. I mean, their offense is going to be amazing. They have Jokic, and like Isaiah Thomas, like you said, is still a great scorer. The rest of their lineup is actually really, really good offensively. But when you have that many guys who are playing bad defense together, it can't mean good things.
No, it definitely can't. But the one thing about the Western Conference is that if you look at last season, right, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they made it in at the 8th seed. They made it in at the 8th seed, and they also had awful defense. I know Tom Thibodeau is known for his defense, but I feel like that's why when that one game where the Nuggets were playing the Timberwolves to try to get the 8th seed, try to solidify their spots, it was a pretty close game all the way down the line because no one could play defense on that team.
Yeah.
It was really bad. So they could still get in. They could still get into the playoffs, and I think having Isaiah Thomas on your team definitely could help that, just for scoring load wise. I think he would be a really good sixth man, and I feel like for the regular season purposes, he's going to be fine. But when it comes postseason, that's when teams come to just take over and just basically show you all of your weaknesses and be like, okay, this is what we're going to do to you. Your weaknesses, I'm sorry, we're going to take advantage of all of them. And so that's when Isaiah Thomas is going to be a little bit of a problem. I do think it would be cool. I don't know for sure, but I think that they did say Michael Porter Jr. is going to play this season. So I would like to see how he is going to affect that team. And maybe if he plays really well, he can get some attention off of Isaiah Thomas when they're on the court together. But I think it's interesting, for someone who says I wanted a max contract 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, I think last season had to be a really rude awakening for him because after 2016, he was coming off a season where he was in MVP talks, and he did such great things for the city of Boston. And then to go through what he did through that entire last season, getting traded to the Cavs, and he played so poorly on the Cavs that LeBron was like, nope, you can't be on this team anymore, especially because he wasn't great for the locker room either, because like you said, he was still living in 2016, and he thought he was a better player than he was. He thought he deserved a max contract.
Well, I think in Isaiah Thomas's mind, he thinks I think at least he thought this, that he's the best point guard in the league. Especially in 2016, I am almost positive he probably thought he was better than anybody else. I mean, he did average 28.9 points per game. He had a really good season, but there is no way in my mind that Isaiah Thomas was ever as good as everyone thought he was. I remember I watched a lot of those games. Now, he did get a lot of his points came from fourth quarter foul calls, I remember, and I was thinking okay, but this can't happen all the time. And if it does, it's going to wear and tear in his body because he is only 5'9". And at the end of the day, look at what happened. The wear and tear. I mean, I know LeBron is essentially what kind of hurt him, but the wear and tear on his body got him injured. And so part of me just feels like, well, that was just what was coming. And especially because how he scored a lot of his points. Now, Isaiah Thomas, I believe, can still play basketball. If you looked at what he did in the Lakers, I mean, he only played 17 games there, but he averaged 15.6 points. I think that's pretty good coming off of only averaging 26.8 minutes per game. I think those are some really good numbers. You're basically a walking bucket at that point. So that's awesome, but he needs to play that role. He cannot start. I think if he plays that role really well, he could be running for sixth man of the year potentially. I think that's definitely possible, especially on a Denver team where he's going to have a big role and in the regular season. Now, once you get to the postseason, it's a different story. But they have to get there first of all.
Right.
But I just, I'm glad that no team fell into the trap of Isaiah Thomas. I'm not saying I'm like a hater of Isaiah Thomas. I was just really upset about that whole time where that whole Isaiah Thomas hype train was going on, where everyone was like, I love Isaiah Thomas, he's so good. It's like heart over height all day, like all those types of things where I'm like, yes, that is awesome. Like, I'm not the tallest person in the world either, so I think that it's really cool to see someone play basketball at such a high level like he did. But at the same time, it's like, come on, you can't have a 5'9" point guard lead your team. If you're giving him a max contract, he has to lead your team. He has to, or at least, or be the number 2. But I don't want on my team, for a contending team, Isaiah Thomas to ever be the number 2. Ever. Number 4? Number 5? That's fine. But you know what that means, right? Because he's a point guard. If he's number 4 and number 5, he's coming off the bench.
Right.
He's coming up. And that's where I want him. Because at the end of the day, I'm sorry, you're still 5'9". Like, you're not even... I feel like for you to be the best player on the team, you have to at least be like... Unless you're Chris Paul, you have to at least probably be around like 6'4", 6'3". You know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of like... That's like the lowest like you can be. Chris Paul is a whole another story. I mean, he's an anomaly. He's like 6 feet tall, but he is who he is. He does everything. Now, he is also injury prone. What do you think that's due to?
Isaiah Thomas?
No, Chris Paul.
You make a good point.
So that's what I'm saying. You got to be careful with certain players. But I don't know. What did you think about his contract?
I think it was probably a good thing that he sort of changed his attitude. Like, he changed from thinking he deserved a max contract to taking the vet minimum. Like, I mean, like, just emotionally for the dude's health. Mm-hmm. Because, like, to claim to think that you're that good and then to not get that money and to not be signed for as long as he was. Like, he was making posts on social media. He said, I just want to be wanted. So I feel like the emotional toll of not being signed sort of, like, overtook how good he thought he was, and he had to look at himself and be like, okay, maybe I need to prove it to these teams that I'm as good as I think I am. So I'll sign for the vet minimum. Yeah, I think the one in that scenario, the 1 year veteran minimum was really good for him. I do think he is worth more than this contract, though. Oh, probably. I'm gonna be honest, completely honest, 100%. I do think Isaiah Thomas should probably be making like 12 mil, like at least 12 mil. I feel like that makes sense to me. Maybe not for a ton of seasons because he is like 29, 28, around that age. Mm-hmm. But at least for 3 years, he could have got a 3-year like $12 million every season contract, maybe a little bit more. I think he is worth that money, but he wanted to prove it somewhere. Yeah. And this is what he wants to do. I think this is a great move for him. I'm just. Man, if I was a fan of any team just that signed Isaiah Thomas to a max deal, I would just like. I don't know what I'd do. It would be so bad. And I'm a Bulls fan. Just to let you know, like, I've seen a lot of bad moves. Like, a lot of bad moves. Like, I don't think you understand, like, how many bad moves I've seen. Like, I mean, I guess it's good because I'm not a Knicks fan, but it's good. But like, that actually seems like a very Knick thing to do, though. Probably. Give Isaiah Thomas a max contract. Yeah, so how I would explain Isaiah Thomas signing for as little as he did, I think like it was an overcorrection by the league to, like you said, the hype train that he was receiving, and then for him to not meet up to those expectations. So the league went from, okay, maybe this guy's worth a max, and then he has that terrible year in Cleveland and sort of LA. I mean, he wasn't terrible there, but he was. Then the league was thinking, okay, this guy doesn't deserve anything close to what he said. So I think they undershot it. I think you're right. I think he does deserve more than he has right now, but I can't really blame the league for overcorrecting the way they did. Yeah, it's just hard because, like, they obviously see what I see. You know what I mean? Like, they're experts, and all these types of people are getting paid to analyze players, and they could see the problems he's going to give you where it matters the most. In the playoffs.
and he is too weak on defense. So unless he's guarding like Chris Paul, and even then, Chris Paul is going to abuse Isaiah Thomas in the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Chris Paul is he's one of the greatest players ever at his position, and that's enough said there. So this is why he probably got undershot and undercut by a lot of teams, but I hope everything goes well for him. I know I talked a lot about him, but like I do hope everything goes well for him because I do think he's a good player. I'm just glad that he came down to earth because not only the hype train bugged me, but also he kind of bugged me because I felt like he really thought he was way better than he was, and I feel like you have to be realistic with yourself. I know confidence is a good thing to have, but you need to know your abilities because if my whole thing is like if you think you are better than you are, in all honesty, you're going to hurt your team because if you believe in yourself that much, then your team's going to have to settle because of you because you're going to want more money if they want to keep you. And you're probably going to need more pieces around you, but due to you wanting more money, you're going to set your team back because now they can't sign people or re-sign people that are very important to the team unless those people take pay cuts. But not a lot of people like to take pay cuts in the NBA. And I mean, it's kind of like the whole thing too. If you look at it like from Chris Paul. Chris Paul said he recruited LeBron James as hard as harder than he's ever like done anything in his whole life. But he still took the $160 million contract.
Right.
So that's why I wanted him to come down to earth because I do think he can help a team, but he has to realize his role. So I want to see him succeed, but you have to have that realistic mindset first in order to do it like in the best way possible. And I think this is exactly what he is doing. So that's why I'm glad and I'm happy with how everything is going right now.
Yeah, I think Denver is going to be a fun team to watch next year because they were already fun to watch last season because of how like good they were offensively, but adding Isaiah Thomas and drafting Michael Porter Jr. So I feel like they're going with the route of defense means nothing to us anymore, and they're just going all in on the offensive end. Nothing, and like if you love offensive basketball, like most people do these days, like the Denver Nuggets might be your team because their offense is going to be insane.
I mean, I feel like everyone kind of loves offensive basketball now.
Right.
I mean, I love defense, but
ever
since the hand check was taken away, like defense has kind of been like a lot, I feel like, worse in the NBA. I mean, not worse, but it's been harder to guard people essentially. And so like with that, people have just guarded people worse. Now there are better defensive schemes that help like with zoning and all those types of things, but a lot of really like good defensive plays came from, in my opinion, like from a little bit further back in the day. Like there are maybe some more like athletic plays that happen now, but I think if you like offensive basketball, you're gonna like the Denver Nuggets if you know everything pans out for them. And I can't wait to see Michael Porter Jr. I can't wait because 13 teams passed him up.
Oh yeah,
13, and you know what? The Bulls are one of them. So I mean, I know the Knicks passed him up too, but I know that's definitely gonna be something that people talked about because the Knicks fans booed what's his
Kevin Knox.
Kevin Knox, yeah. They booed Kevin Knox and they wanted an MPJ, and I get it. I wanted MPJ. But I'm happy with Wendell Carter, but there are a lot of question marks with Kevin Knox. Now, he did score a lot in the Summer League, but he also shot a lot.
He did. I think he led in field goal attempts per game.
I think so, too. And I also remember when I watched, a lot of his shot attempts were not good ones. Like, they were a little forced. So, if that doesn't change, you never know how Kevin Knox is going to turn out. And you also never know how, Michael Porter Jr. is going to turn out. But if Michael Porter Jr. turns out to be a stud, every team that passed him up is going to just hate themselves.
Right, because we know he has that potential because at one point he was the number 1 draft prospect before all of his stuff happened. So it's like I want to see him reach that potential. I want to see him do well, but as a fan of a team that passed on him, if he does reach that potential, I'm going to be really salty about it.
You know what? I might be okay with it though because I am a Bulls fan. I might be okay with it because let's think about it this way too. Michael Porter Jr. loves the Bulls.
He does.
He loves the Bulls. And
I
he loves
remember,
Chicago.
When we ended up getting the tiebreaker over the Kings, like before the lottery happened, Bulls fans were all super hyped about getting Porter Jr. because we thought he was going to fall to 6, and he was posting all over his social media about how he loved Chicago and how he was spending time here, and he was even meeting some of our players. So through this offseason, Bulls fans have been on a huge roller coaster about Michael Porter Jr. because we went from thinking we were going to get him to wondering if we should get him to passing on him and then watching like 6 or 7 more teams pass on him.
Yeah, I think he's a player that might end up on a Bulls jersey one day. I really feel that. I feel that in my heart, and I could be wrong. I know your emotions can lead you to bad places sometimes, but if he loves the Bulls, why not? If the Bulls are going to be good eventually. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
They have a lot of good young players. Wendell Carter, Larry Markkinen. I'm high on Chandler Hutchinson. And I do think Zach LaVine is going to be a good player. And I like Antonio Blakeney. I like a lot of the players on the Bulls. And I feel like they have the ability to show another player in the future that they are really good. And Michael Porter Jr. might be like, you know what? Maybe I'm that missing piece. And if he does feel that way, I'll be a very happy camper.
Yeah, he realistically could be our missing piece.
Yeah. And he could get him in an off season one day. So I'm happy about that. But one thing I've also, this segue into something else, I'm also a little confused about is the Kevin Love 4-year, $120 million extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He said he didn't want to be on the Cavs, but I'm assuming $30 million a year sounded pretty good to his ears.
Probably.
And why wouldn't it? And he was like, you know what? I think I might stay here. Let's see how Colin Sexton pans out. But why do you think the Cavs did that?
I'm with you. I can't really tell. If they're heading in the direction, then a $120 million extension could make sense because it's just let's let Kevin Love lead us through the tank while we get some more assets. But Kevin Love is good at basketball. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I do know.
So if you have a guy like that on your team throughout the entirety of your tank, he's going to cost you a draft position or two, probably more.
Probably. I think himself had 6.4 win shares. So he gives you at least 6 wins.
Right.
A season, and it's probably gonna be more next season. I'm assuming because Kevin Love was a really, really good player before he came to the Cavs, and he was a good player on the Cavs. But
with LeBron on the team, his numbers took a bit of a hit.
Yeah, declined. So he's definitely gonna be a better player now. But I think that they could be doing this, right? If you give Kevin Love a big contract, it takes away space for you giving somebody else a big contract. So maybe they're kind of trying to force themselves to follow through with their plan, for at least 4 years, to be like, all right, well, we can't just give people money. You know what I mean? We already gave one guy money, so we might as well do something to ensure that we follow with our plans. We don't want to look like that one team in Chicago that says we're going to tank for the next 3 years and then be like, oh, actually, I think we're done with the tank now.
Right.
After 1 year of tanking. Which
is a good problem to have.
Yeah, I guess. But I do think that the Bulls should... That's okay. We're not talking about them right now. But I don't know. I'm okay with it. I actually think that it's good for 2 reasons. The one I just said already, that it forces them probably not to sign any free agents. They probably can, eventually.
Yeah.
But to not sign any other big name free agents. But also, it helps them develop Colin Sexton.
Right.
Because Colin Sexton's now going to have a player he can rely on. And usually, having a point guard and a good center/power forward. I know he has played both. He's leaning more towards center now in his career. But having a good big man with a good point guard, or at least a young point guard, always seems to help the point guard out, just historically. So I think that might be why they want to keep Kevin Love with him, just to help Colin Sexton out and also keep Colin Sexton interested in staying on Cleveland. Because I know there's always that joke about Joakim Noah saying, have you ever heard anyone say they're going on vacation in Cleveland? And so if you don't love Cleveland to begin with, why would you want to be there? I did read this one report that or not, I think it was a report, and saying LeBron didn't really just want to go to the Lakers. He wanted to go to L.A. And so I'm like, so he didn't want to stay
in Cleveland.
Yeah, he didn't want to stay in Cleveland. It was the problem. So I think that even he's from Ohio, so that's definitely saying something. So if you don't love Cleveland or Ohio, it might be a problem to get you to keep you staying there. So he needs some type of motivation. I feel like that's what they're probably concerned about. And I think that if he only had J.R. Smith to rely on, there might cause a little bit of problems for Colin Sexton.
Yeah, so aside from Kevin Love, like the biggest veteran presence on the team would be J.R. Smith, and then Tristan Thompson, if you want to consider him
a veteran presence, and George Hill.
Oh yeah, George Hill too.
Yeah.
Well, I think he'll actually be pretty good for Sexton.
Yeah, I think George Hill is actually a very he's a veteran. I mean, I like my feeling about George Hill. I actually do like George Hill, not because of like his play anymore, because he's on the decline. Like it is what it is.
Right.
But George Hill is a very like good all around player his whole career. I mean, part of me just feels this way. Greg Popovich loved George Hill, and if Greg Popovich loves a player, then
that's
he's
like
probably
good enough for me.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. It's like that's a good enough reason for me to like the player. And I know people are like, well, then why did he trade him? Well, he traded him to pick Kawhi Leonard. So, and I know Kawhi Leonard's not on the Spurs anymore, but we all know how good Kawhi Leonard was.
Right.
Like you can't deny that was a good trade. It helped them win a championship. Especially because, and also when they won that championship, Kawhi Leonard helped guard LeBron James, and he did it pretty well. So if you want to say, then why did he trade him for Kawhi Leonard? I don't know. Like I feel like that's a good enough reason, but and also if he was worth that, that's a pretty good reason too. But to say he was a good player, but I think he'll be very good for Colin Sexton. Now, it's hard for me to say George Hill is going to come off the bench, but it's probably what he's going to have to do. Because Colin Sexton's going to need his minutes.
Right.
And I think he deserves his minutes. I just hope he plays defense the right way instead of like how he did in the summer league.
Stance?
Yeah, where he started like flexing on the guy. It's like, what is it, Josh Hart?
Yeah.
Started flexing on Josh Hart.
It was funny, but like that's not how you play defense.
No, it's not, because Steph Curry would have busted a 3 in his face.
The look on his face was really intense. Like it actually kind of made me a fan of him. Like, wow, this kid's nuts. I want to see how he plays.
This kid's nuts. He's like, I like my basketball players nuts. He's like more Ron Artest in the NBA.
But so like, and I feel like with where the Cavs are now, like they're probably tanking. It's hard to say definitively because the Cavs don't always make the best decisions as a franchise.
No.
But like giving Colin Sexton starting minutes, like I'm totally fine with that. I would rather they play Sexton as much as they can, play George Hill off the bench as much as they can, and give as little minutes to Jordan Clarkson as humanly possible.
As humanly possible. Do you think that they're gonna get Rodney Hood back? He's restricted.
Yeah. So I feel like if they do, it won't be a big deal. Like, regardless of whether they do it or don't, I don't think he's like a key piece for them or for anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a decent player. I know a lot of people don't share this opinion, but if you look at how he played before he was on the Cavs, you would probably have that opinion too. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. If you just look at who Rodney Hood is. I think he averaged like 16 or 17 points a game before he was on the Cavs. And so that's why I was like, I never really thought that he was that bad of a player because he was obviously balling out somewhere else.
Yeah, I remember when he left the Jazz, I was kind of like, well, that makes sense because they have Donovan Mitchell now. But before Donovan Mitchell broke out, like he was probably the third, fourth best player on the Jazz, I think. So I've never really been that high on him. But like he's just like your average player on a below average team, I feel.
I mean, I feel like if you want to lose more games,
Rodney Hood's your man.
No, I actually think don't keep Rodney Hood.
Really?
Because he can score. Why would you do that? Is Kyle Korver going to create his own shot? No. Can Rodney Hood create his own shot? Yes. And J.R. Smith, in a past life, he could do that a lot more often. I mean, he could still play, but he can't play at the capacity you need him to help you win a lot of games. So if you want to start J.R. Smith, I think to lose more games, I think that's definitely a thing you should do. I think you should not have Rodney Hood in your team, because that just like gives you at least a more of a chance to win more games if you're trying to tank. If that's what the Cleveland Cavaliers are trying to do, then Rodney Hood has to go, in my opinion. Do you think that?
I see I just don't think he makes that big of a difference. Like, you're probably right that if they're tanking J.R. Smith is a better option.
Yeah.
But Rodney Hood off the bench, I feel like he's not going to win them games. I don't think he's efficient enough to outright win them games.
Oh, I don't think he's going to win them games by himself. But with the combination of Rodney Hood, Kevin Love, and Colin Sexton, I know it doesn't sound super awesome, to the ear. But you know what? Kevin Love's going to play pretty well this season, I'm assuming. And Rodney Hood is definitely going to play better than he did last season with the Cavs. He played well before he went to the Cavs, is my only thing.
Right.
And he can score. He even had a good game in the finals, which I did say that was going to happen if they played him. I said they just need to play Rodney Hood. And he fills in a position that they need. Like, he could even play small forward for them if they want. They're probably going to have to play Shetty Osman.
Yeah.
And I don't think Shetty Osman is as bad as what everyone thinks of him. I think he did learn a lot of stuff from LeBron James, which is interesting. But I think he'll definitely help them going forward. And just to, fact check myself, Rodney Hood, before he went to the Cavs last season, was averaging 16.8 points per game. And he wasn't, the most efficient scorer. He was scoring at, his field goal percentage was 42.4%, but his three-point percentage was at 38.9. And I think with having a point guard like Colin Sexton, he's probably going to give him some more looks than what he got prior, to last season.
Right.
So I think it could help them a lot. But it's not going to be a crazy amount, but I do feel like he would definitely help them for sure. In my mind, there's no doubt that if you want to lose more games, you got to keep J.R. Smith. But you have to. A guy like Colin Sexton is not going to want to lose games. I'm going to be honest with you. Colin Sexton does not look like the type of person, to me, that is going to want to tank. So it's going to be tough because you have to keep him interested. You're going to have to keep him believing in you as a team. And if you're the Cavs, whenever LeBron leaves, what are you? What are you? That's my whole thing. So how are you going to keep him interested? I don't know. So you're going to have to be in a battle with yourself. Are you going to want to keep him interested, or are you going to have to risk it? And maybe he won't be. But you do have him under contract, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like the best way to keep Colin Sexton interested is to make his their future, which he very well could be. I think he does have that potential. And with Kevin Love sort of leading him on the way, and the Cavs do still have some good young pieces. I'm low on Jordan Clarkson, and I'm lower than you are on Rodney Hood, but I agree about Chetty Osman. I think he's going to grow into a reasonably decent player. And Larry Nance Jr., I think people are forgetting about him. I think he's going to improve exponentially.
I think he's going to improve. I think his biggest knock, though, is that he's not really that much of a shooter.
Yeah.
I think that would definitely help him a lot. He would be way better if he could shoot at least a decent level, but he just can't. But I'm with you on Shetty Osman. There were some moments in the summer league that when I watched him play, he had some pretty good moments in there, and there were some movements that they kind of were. They reminded me of how LeBron goes into the basket, and that's what I liked a lot, because I'm not saying he's going to be LeBron. I just got to say that every time I compare someone to a great player, because someone could be like, oh, so you think Shetty Osman's going to be LeBron?
Yeah, bro.
No, I do not. But I do think he learned from him, and I know I said that already, but I think that he is going to be a lot better than people think, and I think he could help this team, but we're just going to have to find out. But we're going to have to find out about a lot of things in this upcoming season. And one thing we're going to have to find out is if Ryan Arcidiacono is going to be a good signing for the Bulls. They only have him for 1 year. I like it. Jack does not. So tell me about that.
When I saw that we had signed him, I was confused because we already had a full roster, and I thought we were just going to go with what we had. But upon further reflection, I think that it's going to end up being a battle between Arcidiacono and Antonius Cleveland for our sort of last roster spot. And after like comparing the tape on those two guys, like I'm going to go with Ryan Arcidiacono. Like I won't be thrilled about it, but he's just going to be like a third string limited playing time point guard. So like, and he probably knows the system at least a little bit by now, and we're not a completely competitive team yet. So like aside from the basketball reasons that makes Ryan Arcidiacono not a great player, I can't think of a reason to not like the signing, like from a team perspective.
I agree with you in some respects, but like I know my feelings about Cameron Payne, and my feelings about Ryan Arcidiacono. My whole thing is that I still feel like I know Cameron Payne has more potential than Ryan Arcidiacono does.
Let's just call him Archie.
Yeah, Ryan Archie or Archie. But like, I think he has more potential. But from what I've seen from Arcidiacono, I said that wrong again. Arcidiacono. What I've seen from him, I feel like he shows you that he has better vision than him, at least in my eyes. I know you don't share the same exact opinion that I do, and that's okay. We don't have to have the same opinions. But that's why I like the signing, because I think he's going to help with ball movement, and he's going to come off probably, you're right, in the third rotation, and that's not really a rotation, but the third rotation he's going to come off and help people and stuff like that, and I get that. But I think when he does do that, he's going to help them a lot more than what most people think, because I watched him in the summer league, and he was making some really good passes.
He was.
Some really good passes. And I want to see that. He made some really good passes for Wendell Carter. He did it all over the court. Chandler Hutchison, Antonio Blakeney. And I think that's definitely going to help, because the guys he's going to be playing with are those guys. For the most part, he's going to be playing with the people he played with in the summer league. So to have him there and to keep the chemistry going that was already going, you know what I mean? It was working.
Right.
That's pretty good in my opinion. I think that's a good move for the Bulls. And also, if a player shows you, this is how I always feel, if a player that you have on your team shows you that they are improving and that they're getting better, I feel like, why aren't you going to reward them for that? They only give him a 1-year contract. I don't think that's a lose scenario in any situation. It's just 1 year, unless they're a really good player, then it is a lose scenario. But because you're gonna want them to, you're gonna want to get them for more years, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
But in this situation, it's not, because in my opinion, it's like he showed you he's getting better. He showed you he's doing the things, take steps forward in the right direction. And if you don't re-sign him, then it's kind of showing like, hey, I don't really care about your development. I just wanted to see you, or you were just a filler. And if that's the case, like you should never have that on your team, in my opinion, because if you're trying to make a really good team, there should be no fillers. Everyone should have a purpose.
Right, and that's why I was kind of so low on him. Until recently, I thought that's just what he was. I thought he was just a filler. When he came on for us towards the end of the regular season, it was kind of bizarre to watch, because I was not like rooting for the Bulls to lose like explicitly, but like if the Bulls lost, I was like, okay, cool, that helps our draft position. But towards the end of the season, we were running lineups with Arcidiacono at point guard, Jerian Grant at shooting guard, and Sean Kilpatrick at small forward, and we won multiple games with that sort of backcourt lineup, which was bizarre to watch. But like it sort of made me change my tune on Archie a little bit, because like
he ran it.
Yeah, I think one of them was against the Magic, but beating the Magic doesn't mean that much. Like they're still the Magic, but watching him do that for us, and then sort of having these discussions with you and watching him in the summer league, like I don't think he's a filler anymore. I think what he is at the moment is he's a very, very similar player to Chris Dunn, but just worse.
Yeah, like
he does almost everything that Chris Dunn does, just at a lower level. Like they're similar.
Because Chris Dunn just has like an athleticism, speed, and strength that Arcidiacono's never gonna have.
Right.
And so that kind of sucks for him. But he's definitely working with what he has, in my opinion, and I want to see him improve some more because I like seeing people improve. I think it's awesome. Like if you can be a better player, that's great because I definitely want to see improvements. But Denzel Valentine, he's gonna have to show some of those improvements if he wants to be a starter. He says he wants to be a starter. Where? Where in the lineup is he starting? I don't know. Do you know?
I don't think he can be a starter. He can't start at point guard. He's not a better point guard than Chris Dunn, even though he can play some point guard if we want him to. I think we'd be best to play him at shooting guard. He's not going to start over Zach LaVine. Like I think given enough time, Antonio Blakeney might actually end up being a better shooting guard than Denzel Valentine.
Probably.
So we'll probably play him like a significant amount of time at small forward, but not as a starter because we just gave Jabari Parker about 4 boogies.
4 boogies, yeah. So that's if in case you're wondering what he means by that, if you're not a Reddit person. So basically, like 4 boogies. Boogie is getting paid the mid-level exception, which is about like I think $5.3 million a season, for the season, and Jabari Parker's getting paid $20 million a season. Right. So that's approximately 4 boogies.
Yeah. So it's not a hard rule that you play the guys that you pay the most money, but most often that's what happens. Like we're probably going to be starting Jabari Parker at small forward like every game.
Yeah.
So, like, there's just no room for Denzel Valentine to start. And aside from that, I don't think he's shown us that he's starter capable.
No, I don't think he has either. I mean, maybe in last season he could have potentially started. I mean, I think he did start some games.
I think so.
I mean, if you have the lineup we have now, it's not like because if Jabari Parker isn't playing, Chandler Hutchison's probably going to play at small forward. And even that's what I'm thinking. Like, even in the second rotation, where does Denzel fit? Where does Denzel fit off your bench unit? I don't know. I like Denzel as a player. I think he should be a better player, like from what I've seen him from college and what I've seen sometimes some of his like little stints in the NBA. Like he has some really good moments, but then he also has moments where he throws it to no one and it goes out of bounds. Like no one's anywhere near because he tries to get a little too fancy. Like I don't think he's an awful player, but he definitely, to me, seems like a player that should be better.
Yes, I totally agree. What I was just about to say was I don't think we've gotten nearly the return on value for the draft pick that we spent on him that we should have gotten. He was the 14th pick in 2016, I think.
Yeah, I believe.
And he's not playing like a 14th pick.
That's the thing, yeah. So he was supposed to be like a really good, like all-around player, like someone who's averaging always close to a triple-double type of thing.
Yeah.
Like. And that's what he was kind of known for in college, is just like being really good all around. And he has moments where he's good all around.
Yeah, I remember towards the end of the season, we had a game against Cleveland where Denzel Valentine just lit them up, and it was crazy to watch. If he could play like that consistently, like he would earn the 37 starts that he had last season.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. It's hard to do that consistently.
Exactly.
And that's the problem, is that, like, it's tough. And that's why I think he has a spot on this roster, and I think it does serve a purpose. But who's going to... I don't know. Who do you want to start at point guard? Cameron Payne, Denzel Valentine, Arch... I can't say this. Arcidiacono.
There you go.
There you go. I keep on messing up now. Who do you want?
As a starter, Chris Dunn.
No, not as a starter. As like for their bench unit. Sorry.
Well, Campaign, I think, is our second best bet, and as we've already touched on, I'm higher on him than a lot of Chicago fans may be. I do agree that we could definitely improve there. I think we need a better backup point guard than Campaign, but I would still rather have Campaign there than Denzel Valentine. I just think it plays to Payne's strengths more than it does Denzel's.
Do you think that Denzel gets the backup shooting guard role? Or who gets it? It's because Justin Holiday's there.
It depends on where the Bulls' front office priorities are. Like if they're committed to developing Valentine, which I think they still should be. If they are, I would give Valentine the backup shooting guard role.
Yeah, but just if you want them to, because I think the Bulls are going to be in win now mode. I
Right.
think in the next season, that's what I'm assuming. So if you're saying what's the best for the Bulls to win, what do you think?
I think that we're gonna start off giving Denzel Valentine that backup shooting guard role, and if Antonio Blakeney develops into what you and I think he can develop into, then I think there's a chance that Blakeney overtakes him there.
Okay, but that does start a little bit of problems. I feel like because I, as much as I like Antonio Blakeney, I do still believe that Justin Holiday is a better player than him currently. And so I think you have to play him at shooting guard. I also believe that Chandler Hutchison has to get minutes because if you're playing Denzel Valentine at shooting guard, whereas first of all, where's Justin Holiday playing? But where's Chandler Hutchison playing? And if you don't want Chandler Hutchison to play and you want Justin Holiday to play, which I think would be dumb, but if that happens, then you have to play Bobby Portis and you have to play Wendell Carter. And I know this is in your scenario because I know you like Wendell. You think Rolo's going to play initially at the center spot starting.
Yeah.
So if this is the case, then this is the problem with a little bit of the Bulls lineup, which is I guess is a good problem to have because it shows that we have some depth. Like, or at least we think we have some depth, or they have some depth. But I don't know. For me, I would have it. It's hard because I know Campaign's probably going to be the backup point guard, so I'm just gonna say he's the backup point guard. But other than that, I would probably go Justin Holiday, Chandler Hutchison, and then I think Wendell Carter should start. But so for me, it'd be Bobby Portis and Rolo.
Eventually, I agree.
Yeah,
with you.
but I want Antonio Blakeney to be our backup point guard, and I know that's tough to see especially I know Jack doesn't exactly believe in that because Antonio Blakeney does like to shoot, but he also does like to pass. I've seen it when he was playing in the G League, so I do think he could play with backup point guard, and I have said before I like his leadership. But man, if I just I'm tired of seeing Campaign.
So with what we've been talking about, it's actually a hard question to answer, and I know we've touched on this before, but with our roster and the way it's built, it's really difficult to point at a guy and say you're the backup, blah blah blah, or you're the third string, whatever. We have a lot of guys who fit a similar mold, so I feel like it's going to be more of a rotation than a clear-cut backup, third string. And that kind of thing.
I think that's good for Hoiberg's system.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, because his system's kind of like a run and gun type of thing. And because it's like I remember Denzel Valentine describing it like whoever touches the ball first after the change of possession is the one who takes the ball up the court. Like you just go. And I think that's good for this team because we do have a lot of players who can just take the ball and go, except for probably Robin Lopez. That's probably the only one. I mean, I know I wouldn't want Bobby Portis running up the court with the ball, but he could potentially.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, I think this is perfect for Hoiberg. It could be better. I'm saying perfect, considering the circumstances. But I do think that this will be an interesting team to watch, and I like the signing of Ryan Arcidiacono. I do like it. But that does mean that David Nwaba is not going to be a Bull.
Yeah.
And that's okay, you know. We have Rowley Alkins if they decide to keep him. I actually have seen some film of him for when he was on Arizona. And I actually have some opinions on him. I'm not going to say exactly how I feel about him right now because I think that's something we could touch upon maybe some other time.
Sure.
I feel like this might be it for today. Unless you want to talk about some more about the Bulls or anything like that.
No, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, so I think that's it for today. So next time, if we can, I don't want to lie to you guys again. So I don't want to, but we'll probably try to talk about Rowley Alkins and we'll tell you our opinions on where we think he fits on the Bulls, maybe why the Bulls wanted him, and do we think he's a good fit? And also I just want to say, ask us questions, please. Comment. I think it's cool if you guys do share, and I really think it's cool if you guys like the videos, but what I think is the most cool like out of all the things you could do, besides maybe subscribing, is like commenting on our videos, because I want to hear what you guys think about what we're doing, even if you don't like it. Like, that's fine. I mean, I hope that's not the case, because we work really hard. Yeah, like we work really hard to be prepared for a lot of these, and we want to answer your questions because like we want to be connected with the people that want to watch our podcast. So if you guys have anything you want to ask us, even if you don't watch the whole video, like it doesn't have to be on this particular podcast. Like, it could be about anything sports related. Anything. So just let us know. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll talk about, like I said, Rally Elkins next time, hopefully. And I'm thinking we might do Dirk, Vince Carter, and Manu Ginobili kind of like as a part of the next video too. We're talking about it. So if you're interested in that, let us know. But yeah, that's it for today. So this is the Bearables podcast. I'm Brandon Ruiz, and I'm here with
Jack Cowart.
And thanks for listening.